Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today to share your story and to share, just kind of the importance of partnering with a financial expert like myself. So before we get started, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
You're welcome. You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me. So my name is Shea Jackson, and I am the co-owner and CFO of Jackson Protection Agency, which is a security agency based out of Atlanta, Georgia, that my husband and I have together. And yeah.
Well, tell us who you work with, because you never know who's actually watching.
Yeah, so we're a security agency. We specialize in executive protection, asset protection, and your everyday security, depending on whether it's retail stores or whether it's hotels. We've worked with several different clients. Oh my goodness, the list is endless. Actually, most recently, my husband provided security for Babyface at the UNCF Mayor's Ball in Atlanta.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so the list is endless, but we have several different types of clients from all walks of life.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us how long you've been in business and how long were you in business before you and I started working together?
Okay, so technically, it was a DBA situation. When my husband was in the military, we were stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and he was asked to do security for a VFW post-military organization. And so he's like, yeah, cool. And so we were kind of just moseying along doing, just things of that nature. But when we officially legitimized the business and kind of hit the ground running, that was summer of 2019. And at the onset of the pandemic, which is when I feel like our business just kind of catapulted to a whole nother level. That's when I said, I had a sit down conversation with Ronnie, and I'm like, hey, we need to make sure these finances are together and in order. Reached out to a friend who's a client of yours. She and her mom have been a client of yours for years. And she's like, you got to call BTB. You got to call Bernadette. So she gave me your information, gave me your email, shot you an email. And we've been rocking ever since.
So it's really nice that that I got a chance to actually work with you guys at the beginning of the legitimate stage, as you said.
Right.
Exactly. And so what was it? You said that you were like, we got to make sure these finances. What was that thing that happened that said, we need an accountant. We need somebody on our team.
Yeah. So we were approached with a huge government contract. And it was the first time that I had seen numbers like that at one time. And I was just like, wow, this is really happening. This is what we've been believing for. This is what we've been, preparing for. And it was with the city of Atlanta. And they were actually two different contracts, but happening at the same time, happening simultaneously. And I knew at that moment, I'm like, okay, this is on the next level. And I need to make sure that I have somebody in my corner smarter than me, more knowledgeable than me, an expert, somebody that can really help and assist, teach me how to fish in some areas, but fish for me in other areas, So that was that aha moment for me, which was, top of 2020.
Yeah. So this might be a little vulnerable. Like, why wasn't getting an accountant at the beginning? Like when you guys legitimized the business, why wasn't that something that you thought, oh, we're gonna be legit, let's get an accountant? Why wasn't that your immediate thought?
For us, we are first generation, a lot of things. And I mean, entrepreneurs run through our family, but not so much on this level. And, you don't know what you don't know. And we simply did not know. And it was one of those situations where no one had taught us or prepared us. There was no silver spoon. So just how to do business, period. We literally didn't know. So we were building from the ground up, brick by brick, really just learning as the opportunities were coming. So yeah, and I mean, we just did not know. We hadn't been taught, and it's interesting because I mean, my degree is in business administration, but I don't think anything prepares you the way Hard Knocks
Oh yeah.
prepares you, and just, being in it, being in the day-to-day life of business. So honestly, we didn't know.
Yeah. And you know what? There's so many other people just like you. So it's not anything to be ashamed of because people just don't know. I hear people say, oh, when I start making money,
Right.
we'll hire an accountant. And for you, do you feel like there are some things that you would have done differently if you had an accountant from the start as opposed to?
Of course. Of course. Hindsight 2020. The biggest thing was educating myself on the different business structures. We have been through the ringer on making sure that, okay, S corp, not S corp, all of those things that play such a huge factor and dynamic in making sure that your business is set up properly. And that would have been definitely something that I would have done differently looking back, for sure. Because had I done that, then I feel that we would have been better prepared, for all that comes with those big contracts and, that type of income. But yeah, for sure, I definitely feel that would have been the number one thing I would have done differently.
Yeah, yeah. So you got that big contract with the city of Atlanta, and it was like, you said it was during the pandemic, right? So right at the onset of the pandemic. And I remember the beginning of the pandemic was scary for a lot of people because there was so much uncertainty. We didn't know what was going to happen. And people were losing their businesses, people were losing their income. It was a scary time. So for you all, it was the complete opposite, right?
Yeah, for us, there's the saying, when preparation meets opportunity, then success comes. And that is exactly what happened for us, because in the summer, literally just the summer of 2019, we had another potential contract, and it was a 7-figure contract. It was a huge contract. And so we literally were doing all that we knew to do. And it fell through. But I feel like the seeds that were sown in that moment, in that summer, when the opportunity came, it literally just catapulted us. And so that is what I feel we needed in that season, even though it didn't work out, even though it seemed to be a failure in that time frame. And it was devastating because at that time it was like, okay, this is sink or swim for us. We're full-time entrepreneurs, even though Ronnie's retired from the military, we're full-time entrepreneurs. And so when that didn't happen, it was very, very hard, but preparation, opportunity met success. And that catapulted us. And we were grateful because not only were we able to have stability, but we were able to provide stability for so many other people during that time. Like you said, no one was working at that time. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that as entrepreneurs, we cannot lose focus on the impact that we get to make in the lives of other people. Right. It is sometimes it's our immediate thought to think of how do we benefit from this business, but we also have to think about how do we help others in this. And so you all have been able to employ a lot of people with those contracts. And so I know that's been a huge blessing. So I would just tell you that it's been an absolute joy working with you all. I feel like y'all might, I don't know if I'm old enough to be your mom. Maybe I'll be your big sister. I feel like, this big sister that, it's been a joy to be able to mentor you guys along the way and just give you guidance and watch all of the great things that were happening. Because wow, it's been amazing, right? I'm not gonna tell your business. I'll let you tell your own business, but it's been a really amazing ride, and just to watch all of the great things that have come, all of the wins, the growth, the progress, all of those things, it's been a real joy to watch this. So I have a question for you. If you could tell another small business owner, if you could just give them one piece of advice as it relates to starting your business, working with an accountant, what would it be?
I would tell them to trust the process. I think building a business and being an entrepreneur, being a small business owner is very, it takes a level of commitment. It takes a level of trust because there's so many entities. And I think I recently told you, I'm like, the to-do list just never ends. It does not end. You don't go to work, clock in, clock out, go home and forget. You know, you have to really learn balance, if there's even a thing, you know, if that's even a thing, but you just have to trust the process and trust and bet on yourself. Because if you have the vision, if you have the blueprint, and if you put in the work, everything will line up when and how it's supposed to line up. Just like I said with the contract that fell through, you know, we were doing the steps we knew to do. And then again, you know, it's like, yeah, we didn't know that we necessarily needed an accountant until something clicked inside of me when we got the big contract. And I'm like, okay, now we need the accountant. And then I spoke to a friend who's like, you got to call Bernadette. So that's just trusting the process. Like it fell in line. Even, you know, when you don't think that it is, you'll connect with someone somehow. And, you know, you're saying that you're excited about the journey. Well, I am just super grateful. You know, we're grateful for you because, I mean, without your expertise, it's like without you, without your team, there's so many things that we wouldn't have a clue about. You know, you've educated me so much. So thank you. I just needed to say that. But yeah, I would just say trust the process. Trust the process.
Yeah, that's so true. And I remember something that you said earlier about having a business degree, and girl saying, like, the stuff that I learned, I have 3 degrees. And there are just things that you don't learn, no matter how many classes you take, how many degrees you have. There are just some things that you just learn from doing, right?
Yeah.
So you guys, you've learned a lot about entrepreneurship by being an entrepreneur. You can study the books, you can get the degrees. I'm not knocking those things. I'm definitely pro-education, obviously. And so, but there are just some things that just have to happen from doing it. So thank you so much. I appreciate you taking some time. I know you got a long list of things to do. So I thank you so much for carving out these few minutes in your day just to share what it's been like to work with us. And I've enjoyed it. I definitely have. So I'm looking forward to those 8-figure contracts. Yes, we're going to call it. Looking forward to it. and the impact that you guys get to make in your community. And it's a pleasure to actually work with entrepreneurs who have purpose and who have a heart for other people, and it's not just about you. So thanks so much. I appreciate you, Shea.
Thank you, Bernadette. We appreciate you so much.
All right.